Hello, I'm Essay, your AI essayist. Please note that all content, audio and video in this presentation are AI generated. As AI can sometimes produce inaccuracies, I encourage you to verify any factual information presented. With that in mind, let's begin.
The 1867 publication of Gregor and Mendel's experiments on plant hybridization stands as a singular monument in the history of science, a work of profound methodological elegance and conceptual power. Its arguments, built upon a foundation of meticulous observation and quantitative reasoning, laid the complete groundwork for the science of genetics decades before the field itself had a name. This essay undertakes a rigorous evaluation of the internal claims, logical structure, and experimental evidence presented within Mendel's paper, proceeding section by section to illuminate the intellectual architecture of this foundational text. The analysis will focus directly on the specific assertions Mendel makes, the evidence he marshals in their support, and the sheer force of the inferential chain he constructs, from the humble garden pea to the universal laws of heredity. Section 1 Introductory Remarks and Methodological Foundation. Mendel's introduction establishes the grand scope of his inquiry with an understated confidence. He identifies the problem of heredity and the generation of hybrids as a central question in biology, one whose resolution requires experiments of a scale and precision previously unattempted. He posits that a universally applicable law governs the formation and development of hybrids, a claim that frames his entire project as a search for a fundamental principle of nature akin to those being uncovered in physics and chemistry. The genius of the paper's opening section lies in its exhaustive articulation of the experimental prerequisites. Mendel's selection of the common pea, Pisum sativum, was a deliberate choice predicated on a strict set of criteria essential for the success of his work. He required a plant possessing constant, easily differentiated characters. He needed a floral structure that naturally self-pollinates and could be protected from foreign pollen, ensuring the integrity of each grass. Furthermore, the hybrids themselves and their offspring had to remain fertile across successive generations. This initial section is a testament to experimental foresight. The validity of every subsequent claim in the paper rests upon the strength of this preliminary design. By defining the necessary conditions for a clear result, Mendel engineered the possibility of discovery itself. He outlines a selection of 7 pairs of contrasting traits for study: the form of the ripe seeds, either round or wrinkled the colour of the seed albumen, either yellow or green the colour of the seed coat, either white or grey the form of the ripe pods, either simply inflated or deeply constricted the colour of the unripe pods, either green or yellow the position of the flowers, either axial or terminal and the length of the stem, either tall or dwarf. This precise enumeration establishes a concrete, empirical basis for the abstract principles he will later derive. Section 2 The first hybrid generation and the concept of dominance. In his first set of experiments, Mendel details the crossing of pure-breeding parent plants exhibiting one of the contrasting character pairs. The resulting progeny, which he designates the first hybrid generation, provides the paper's first major empirical claim. In every case, for all 7 traits, the hybrid offspring exhibited only one of the 2 parental characters, without any intermediate forms. For example, the cross between a tall and a dwarf plant produced exclusively tall offspring. Mendel's crucial conceptual innovation here is the introduction of a new terminology to describe this phenomenon. He designates the character that appears in the hybrid generation as dominant and the one that becomes latent or hidden as recessive. These terms are far more than simple labels. They represent a theoretical framework for understanding the interaction of parental contributions. The claim being advanced is that heredity operates through a mechanism of expression and suppression. The uniformity of this first generation of hybrids was a direct, observable fact that provided an empirical counterpoint to the widely held notion of blending inheritance, where offspring were popularly conceived as a simple average of parental traits. Mendel's claim is absolute and supported by repeated experiments across all 7 chosen characteristics. The principle of uniformity, established with such clarity, becomes the stable baseline from which he will unravel a more complex mathematics of subsequent generations. Section 3. The second hybrid generation and the law of segregation. The analytical core of the paper resides in its examination of the second generation, produced by allowing the uniform hybrids of the first generation to self-pollinate. The central claim of this section is revolutionary. The latent, recessive character reappears, and it does so in a consistent and predictable mathematical proportion. Mendel presents his extensive numerical data with scrupulous care in the experiment on seed form. For instance, from 7,324 seeds produced by the hybrid generation, he counted 5,474 round and 2,850 wrinkled. This yields a ratio of 2.96 to 1. Across all 7 experiments, the data consistently approximates a simple whole number ratio of 3 dominant forms to 1 recessive form. From this stark statistical pattern, Mendel makes his most profound inferential leap. He reasons that this 3-to-1 ratio in appearance must be the outward expression of an underlying, more fundamental process. He postulates that the hybrid plants must carry 2 distinct hereditary elements for each trait, one inherited from each parent. These elements, which he theorized as particulate and unchanging, must separate or segregate from one another during the formation of the pollen and egg cells. Each gamete, therefore, contains only one element for each trait. Random fertilization then recombines these elements in the next generation, producing the observed ratio. This is the first of Mendel's great laws, the law of segregation. It is a powerful claim that a statistical observation in a population of plants reveals a fundamental mechanism occurring at the cellular level. The evidence is the weight of his numbers and the consistency of the ratio, which he argues is too regular to be the product of Section 4. The subsequent generations and mathematical confirmation to substantiate the bold claims derived from the second hybrid generation. Mendel details his examination of the third and subsequent generations. This section functions as a critical step of verification, testing the predictive power of his segregation model. He allowed the plants of the second generation to self-pollinate and observed their progeny. The results provided a stunning confirmation of his hypothesis. The plants that exhibited the recessive trait in the second generation, when self-pollinated, produced only recessive offspring. They were pure-breeding. The plants that showed the dominant trait, however, were of 2 kinds. Approximately 1/3 of them produced only dominant-trait offspring, proving themselves to be pure-breeding dominants. The remaining 2/3 behaved exactly like the first-generation hybrids, once again yielding offspring in a 3-to-1 ratio of dominant to recessive. This observation allowed Mendel to refine his model, revealing the true composition of the second hybrid generation. The 3-to-1 phenotypic ratio concealed a more fundamental genotypic ratio of 1 part pure-breeding dominant to 2 parts hybrid to 1 part pure-breeding recessive. This 1-to-2-to-1 ratio is the mathematical heart of segregation. The claim here is one of internal consistency and predictive accuracy. The model derived from the second generation perfectly anticipates the breeding behavior of the third. Mendel expresses this relationship using a simple algebraic notation, representing the pure dominant parent as capital A, the pure recessive as small a, and the hybrid as capital A small a. The progeny of the hybrid can, then, be expressed as the series capital A plus 2 times capital A plus small a formulation that demonstrates the deep integration of mathematical thinking into his biological investigation. Section 5. The backcross experiments as definitive proof. Mendel includes a further set of experiments that serve as an exceptionally elegant proof of his segregation theory. The backcross, to directly test his hypothesis about the composition of the hybrid's reproductive cells, he crossed the first-generation hybrid with both of the original pure-breeding parental types. The claims derived from these experiments are powerful because of their clarity. When the hybrid, capital A small a, was crossed with the pure recessive parent, small a, the resulting offspring showed a ratio of 1 dominant phenotype to 1 recessive phenotype. This result is precisely what his theory would predict, as the hybrid produces 2 types of gametes, capital A and small a, in equal numbers, which then combine with a single type of gamete, small a, from the recessive parent. Similarly, when the hybrid was crossed with the pure dominant parent, capital A, all offspring exhibited the dominant phenotype. Yet his model correctly predicted that half of them would be pure breeding and half would be hybrid in their underlying composition. This experimental design, which would become known as the test cross, functions as a direct assay of the genetic content of the hybrid. It powerfully validates his claim that the hybrid produces two kinds of gametes in equal measure, providing a direct, observable link between his abstract model of hereditary elements and the tangible results of a specific breeding program. It is a masterstroke of experimental logic, designed to leave little room for alternative interpretations. Section 6 hybrids of multiple differentiating characters and independent assortment having established the law governing a single trait, Mendel expands his inquiry to cases involving two or more differentiating character pairs. This section presents his second great law. He details a dihybrid cross, for instance, between a plant with round, yellow seeds and one with wrinkled, green seeds. The first hybrid generation, as expected, was uniform, exhibiting only the two dominant traits round and yellow. The crucial test came, once again, in the second generation, derived from self-pollinating these hybrid plants. Here, Mendel observed four distinct combinations of traits in the offspring round yellow, round green, and wrinkled green. His meticulous counting revealed a consistent phenotypic ratio of approximately 9 to 3 to 3 to 1. Mendel's insight here is one of beautiful mathematical simplicity. He recognized that this complex ratio was nothing more than the product of two independent 3-to-1 ratios. The segregation of the seed-shape trait was occurring without any influence from the segregation of the seed color trait. From this, he formulates his second law, the law of independent assortment, which claims that the behavior of each pair of hereditary elements is independent of all other pairs during gamete formation. This law elevates his findings from a rule about single traits to a general principle of heredity, suggesting a system where a vast number of traits could be recombined to produce variety in a predictable, law-like manner. The claim is that the organism's hereditary constitution is a mosaic of discrete, independently inherited units. Section 7 the reproductive cells of hybrids and speculative mechanisms. In this penultimate section, Mendel attempts to ground his abstract laws in the known biology of his time. Speculating on the cellular mechanisms responsible for his observed ratios, he explicitly connects his hereditary elements to the contents of the pollen and egg cells. His central claim here is that the consistent numerical relationships he uncovered are the direct consequence of the process of fertilization, wherein one pollen cell combines with one egg cell to form the zygote. He proposes that for each trait, the hybrid parent must produce two types of pollen and two types of egg cells, each carrying one of the two elemental forms, and that these are produced on average in equal numbers. The random fusion of these gametes during fertilization is the engine that generates the predictable ratios of the subsequent generation. While the cytological details of meiosis were yet to be discovered, Mendel's reasoning correctly anticipated its genetic consequences. He effectively predicted the reductional division of gamete formation from purely statistical data. This section reveals the full ambition of his work to unite large-scale observation of plant populations with a theory of microscopic, cellular events. It is a powerful claim about the physical basis of heredity, even if the physical entities themselves remained invisible to him. Section 8 concluding remarks and scientific humility. Mendel's concluding remarks are characterized by a remarkable blend of confidence and caution. He asserts the general validity of the law he has developed for Pism, suggesting it provides a framework for understanding heredity in other species. At the same time, he presents the results of his parallel, and far less successful, experiments with Hawklead, Hieracium. He notes that the behavior of Hieracium hybrids deviates significantly from the clear patterns observed in peas. The inclusion of this confounding data is a mark of profound scientific integrity. It serves as a self-imposed boundary on the universality of his claims, acknowledging that other biological factors, in this case the latter discovered phenomenon of apomixis or asexual seed production, could complicate the picture. Ironically, is correspondence with a prominent botanist Carl Nedgerli, who encouraged him to study the intractable Hieracium, may have inadvertently steered him away from further productive research. This final section also contains the paper's most enduring scholarly puzzle, the statistical analysis of Mendel's reported numbers, most famously by the statistician R.A. Fischer in 1936, suggests that his results are almost too perfect. The Kiss-wide fit of his observed data to his expected ratios is so good that it raises the possibility of unconscious bias, editorial selection, or some unrecorded procedural nuance. This critique, however, is a critique of the data's perfection, a testament to the clarity of the underlying model. The primary claim of the conclusion remains the phenomena of heredity are governed by discoverable, predictable, and mathematically expressible. In conclusion, Gregor Johann Mendel's experiments on plant hybridization is an integrated masterpiece of scientific argumentation. Each section builds logically upon the last, moving from meticulous experimental design to empirical observation, to conceptual innovation, to mathematical formulation, and finally to rigorous verification. The paper's claims are audacious yet backed by an overwhelming body of quantitative evidence. He claimed the existence of discrete, particulate units of heredity, what we now call genes. He claimed that these units segregate during gamete formation and are sought independently of one another. He supported these claims with the invention of a new, quantitative predictive methodology and a series of brilliantly designed experiments. The enduring power of his 867 paper lies in its self-contained logical coherence. It provided a complete, functional, and testable theory of inheritance, while it awaited the rediscovery of its principles at the turn of the 20th century to be fully integrated into the mainstream of biological thought. The work itself stands as a perfect, crystalline example of the scientific method, a text that not only presented a new science but also embodied its highest ideals of clarity, rigor, and profound insight.
We really appreciate you tuning in to this AI-powered presentation. Our goal is to push the boundaries of AI in content creation, and your input is invaluable. If there's a particular subject you'd like to see us tackle next, or if you have suggestions on how we could fine-tune our AI's creative prompts, please don't hesitate to leave your ideas in the comments section. We're excited to bring you more unique content very soon.